Hi, everybody. We are so excited to have Luis Miranda with us today. Mr. Miranda is founding partner of the Miram Group, a government affairs, lobbying, and political consulting firm in New York City. He has previously served in 3 New York City mayoral administrations and is also the board chair of the Latino Victory Fund and the Northern Manhattan Arts Alliance. We're so happy to have you. Welcome, Luis.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're so excited. So we'd love to start by asking you about the Latino Victory Fund for those who may not know yet. And so what are your guys' goals and how do you guys work to achieve them?
So we were created recently, 2016, actually by Eva Longoria, who is the creator of the Latino Victory Fund. And our mission is very simple. We exist to try to increase the number of Latino elected officials from throughout the country. We want progressive Latinos to join local legislatures, state legislatures, Congress, and then we're allowed to support someone from president. And this time around, we're supporting Joe Biden for president. We will never support Donald Trump. I'll rather kill myself first.
Are you seeing improvements since you guys started this crucial work? And if you have, what are these achievements? Where are these achievements showing up?
We have. Every year, we see more Hispanics, more Latinx community members joining the ranks of the elected officials. We see it in Florida. We see it in places where there were none before. Like in the last cycle in 18, we helped elect 5 new Latino Congress members. If you can believe it, a state like Texas, which is a third Latino, elected its first 2 Latinas to Congress in the past election. So we're still electing the first, which makes like very little sense since we were in Texas, in Arizona, in Colorado, in California before anybody else. We were there with Native Americans, and then everybody else joined us. But we are now continuing to elect so many first. And it's important that we do it because we need to expand the number of Latinos. And it's important because it is in those state legislatures where decisions are made. And we need people, we need Latinos to be part of the decision-making process.
Yeah, exactly. And, another thing that you guys talk about is strengthening the country through conversation. And we're really inspired by that, hence the name Let's Talk. And so could you speak a little bit about why you value conversation so much and maybe some tips on how you see like effective conversations taking place?
The most important conversation creation that I have seen recently was Barack and Michelle Obama's speech at the Democratic Convention. And I love Michelle's statement that have made me have conversations with families and friends, and I fight on Twitter and Instagram and all of that constantly. And those conversations, when she said, Trump is Trump. He's just wrong for this country at this time. So I think he's wrong for this country at any time, but I'll take her for it and begin a conversation that it's important that some people may like some aspects of Trump, but I think most people will agree that given where we are as a country, with racial division, with COVID-19, with everything that is happening, having someone who begins to heal and put us together in a civil conversation it's very, very needed.
Absolutely. And another thing you guys talk a lot about is education. So could you tell us about the Latino Victory Fund and where education ties into this initiative, especially when it comes to raising awareness about Latinos' contributions to the American society?
Uh, it will be great when we get to the point and to the time where we don't have to talk about Latinos anymore, Black Americans, Native Americans, and all of that. I know it's not happening in my lifetime. I hope it happens in your lifetime. But we need to have the conversation because we get more and more into a better place for all of us when all of us are sitting at the table. Uh, and at Latino Victory, educating non-Latinos of why it's important that Latinos are at the table. Everyone needs to understand that because then it will permeate all of society. Then I don't have to do a campaign to elect Latinos. Everyone will know that we will have a better union if everyone has learned that everyone should be at the table. And that's what we hope to do day in and day out in education, in educating others that it's important for every group in society to be sitting at those tables, to be in those rooms where our views, where different points of view ought to be represented.
And staying within the realm of education, your son, Lin Manuel, created the Broadway musical Hamilton, a show that does largely touch on immigration and the role that it plays in the US. And we'd love to hear your thoughts on that and how activism remains the forefront within your family. And if you have a message for families who are collectively trying to do more around advocacy for important issues.
Absolutely. I believe you teach advocacy to your children. And the sooner you start, the better it is, the more it gets into the genetic makeup and behavioral makeup of somebody. Uh, my kids were always involved because my wife and I were always involved in some cause, whether it was to build better schools for the immigrant community in which I live in New York City, for immigrant kids, or bilingual education programs, or better health services, or affordable housing. There was always a cause, and there is always a cause to be involved, and we were always involved as a family. So my son, Lin Manuel, says all the time that the arts reflect society. So when he read the Hamilton book, the first thing that struck him, that came at him, was that Hamilton was the only US born founding father. He was born somewhere else, came to the States, and was not part of the big families that participated in the American war. So from the very beginning, what attracted him to Hamilton was the fact that he was the immigrant in the group of our country's founders. And then, you know, it will never occur to me, but you always have better kids than who you are. That's our goal in society, is that the kids that we raise have to be much better than us. And Manuel used to say when he started working on this, that as he was reading the book, hip hoppers kept coming to his head, representing the different founding fathers. It will never occur to me, hip hoppers will not jump into my head as I'm thinking about George Washington, but it did into his. And it was telling the story of the American Revolution from his eyes, what I believe made Hamilton so compelling, and sort of the utilizing actors, regardless of their background, to play all of the roles in the American Revolution, what then made Hamilton even more interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. And lastly, the Latinx population is the largest growing minority. How do you see Latinx turnout impacting this presidential election? And what conversations still need to happen to make sure that the Latinos do turn out and vote?
I think that many people think that their vote is not important. And when you think about it, it's not a stupid thought. My vote, it's important, but it's understanding that you vote in the context of every vote in your community. It's what makes a difference. And if you don't start with your vote and taking that responsibility, then how can you ask others to impact your community? So our goal is that everybody understands how important it's that one vote, and goes and get 5 more votes, make sure the family votes, make a plan, because this election, it's unlike any other election that I have lived. You guys have not lived tons of elections. I have lived tons of elections. And this is very, very different. You could vote by mail. You could vote in early voting, where many states allow that to happen, or you could vote on November 3rd. So we may not have a result on November 3rd, because there's going to be millions of voters who are voting by mail. So understanding, educating people to vote, and to vote in any way that they feel comfortable, even if it takes us a little while to know who is the winner, it's going to be a challenge in talking to neighbors in this November 3rd election.
Yes, 100%. And so thank you so much for joining us, Luis. And now that we're done talking, it's time to go and take action. So go check out latinovictory.us and take action by joining the movement and signing up for updates and information, or donating to the Latino Victory Fund to help keep up the fight. His documentary, Siempre Luis, will be airing on October 6th at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, so go check that out to learn more about all that Luis has done. Also, please go check out our collaboration with Headcount at headcount.org/Let's Talk to check your voter registration and make sure that you're ready to vote this election season. Thank you so much, Luis. It was so amazing to have you.
Thank you for having me here.